Hi, this is Bob Piorun. That's Spud back there. We want to let sleeping dogs lie, so we'll just leave him there where he is. And I'd like to do the second part of my series on the blues progression. And if you carefully studied my first section, this should be something you could easily comprehend. We're going to talk about the minor blues progression. Now, in the major blues progression, just to review quickly, I've shown you that the most common thing is to stay on the one chord for 4 measures, go to the 4 chord for 2 measures, back to the 1 chord for 2 measures, out to the 5 chord for 1 measure, 4 chord for 1 measure, and back to the 1 chord for 2 measures. And usually these chords are of a major or possibly a 7th variety if you want to get more of a blues sound. So in a major key, that's your basic sequence for one kind of 12-bar blues, and we'll look at some others in the future. But right now we want to talk about the minor blues. The big difference is the minor blues uses the 1 chord as minor, the 4 chord is minor, as you might guess, but here's the big difference. We're not going to go 5 down the 4 in the last few measures. We're going to go 6 down the 5 and back to 1. Now, we want to be able to find the 6th chord easily in a minor key, and it's very easy to do using this method on your guitar. Let's say we're in the key of G. It's very simple, if you know bar chords, to find the 3 main chords in a key by doing this simple thing. If you don't know bar chords and you know your guitar somewhat, you can also, and if you're a bass player, you can just use this simple system to find the 3 main chords in the key. This is the 1, this is the 4, and this is the 5. Now, in a minor key, the 6th chord that we're going to use is always 1 fret higher than the 5 chord. And both of these chords will be major, by the way. So let's go using G minor as an example. I'm going to play a minor blues. It would be 4 measures of G minor. Then I'm going to go to the 4 chord, which would be C minor for 2 measures, and then back to the 1 chord for 2 measures. Then the 6 chord, down to the 5 chord. They're only 1 fret apart, and they're both major, and then back to the G minor. And that's the minor blues we're going to talk about. Probably one of the most commonly used, especially for these great classics, which we're going to look at. Now, the first one is, these are all in different genres, but yet they are the same song, essentially, in terms, harmonically speaking, in terms of chords. The first one is the great blues classic, The Thrill Is Gone, in B minor. 4 measures of B minor. Down to the 4 chord, 2 measures of E minor, and back to B minor, 2 measures. And then our 6th chord, G, down to the 5 chord, F sharp, both major, and back to the 1 chord. So that's The Thrill Is Gone by B.B. King. And the next example is from the jazz repertoire. You may be less knowledgeable of this. Now, Mr. PC by John Coltrane is in the key of C minor, but the big difference is it's very fast, but essentially it's the same chord progression. So we have C minor, F minor, back to C minor. So essentially, Mr. PC by John Coltrane is the same chord progression as The Thrill Is Gone. It's a half step higher, 1 fret on the guitar, but basically it's the same. Jazz players would tend to use a few more substitutions in here, but essentially the harmony is the same as that. And then finally, from the rock pop genre, we have, after an extended intro of, I believe, 8 bars, we have the pop rock classic by the Doobie Brothers, Long Train Runnin', in G minor. G minor. C minor. E flat. So essentially, that's again the same chord progression. It's in a different key with a different groove to it, but it's essentially the same chord progression. Now, so generally speaking, at least with these classic minor blues, they tend to do something similar to the major blues. The 1 chord for 4, the 4 chord for 2, back to the 1 chord for 2. But the big difference is instead of going 5 down to 4 back to 1, they go 6 to 5 back to 1. Now again, as I keep bringing up in my videos, I'm always showing people the tendencies, what tends to happen in music. You can do whatever you want. For example, a few examples come to mind of songs that don't do the 6 down to 5 in a minor blues. For example, Green Onions is basically a blues in F minor, but when it comes to the 5 chord, it goes down to the 4 chord and then back to the 1 chord. So a blues could do whatever you want. I'm showing you the tendencies and how a number of songs are actually the same chord progression. Another one that comes to mind, a great blues classic, is Blue Jean Blues by ZZ Top in B minor. That's rather a strange progression in that, depending on where you start counting it, it's kind of like a 10-bar blues. It does 4 measures of B minor, like Mr. PC, or like Thrill Is Gone, 2 measures of E minor, and then back to B minor. But then it just goes F sharp and back to B minor. Depending on where you start the next strain, you could call it a 10-bar blues, but it essentially is somewhat like Thrill Is Gone, except it doesn't use the G chord there before the F sharp. I also remember another one, I believe it was Great White, Long Cold Winter or something like that. If you're familiar with them, they had a minor blues, and they essentially did minor for all the chords, and you could do that. You could take a blues in A minor and play A minor, down to the 4 chord, D minor, back to A minor. Now here's what they did, I believe. They just did minor for the 5 chords. Down to the 4 chord minor, and back to the 1 chord minor. So you could do that. You could use minor for all 3 of the chords and play it the same way as a 12-bar blues in a major key, just making the chords minor. But again, I chose to take these classic songs, which all did the same thing, which was that 6 chord down to the 5 chord, and show you that common use. Now, I wrote a song that used that idea of the, a minor blues in this manner, but here's how I changed it in 2 ways to make it unique to myself. I wrote a song called My Son Is Gone, and essentially it's a blues in A minor. And what I did is, instead of just staying on A minor, I just went back and forth from A minor to E7 sharp 9, the so-called Jimi Hendrix chord. So that just gave it a little different flavor. Then when I went to the 4-chord, D minor, I did essentially the same thing. I did D minor to A7 sharp 9, and then I went back to A minor to E7 sharp 9. Then I did, as the other blues are, I went to the 6th chord, down to the 5 chord, and back to the 1 chord. So this is a song of mine called My Sun Is Gone. If you want to hear it being sung, I have it recorded twice by 2 different singers. You can find it on iTunes. My Sun Is Gone by Bob Piorun. I have it on a jazz CD and also on a blues CD that I did. And it's same key, and you could play along with it if you wish. Now, so beside that fact of taking the 1 chord and the 5 chord and alternating back and forth, I did another thing to make it somewhat unique. I played it in 3/4 time, and I doubled the length of it. So instead of a 12-bar blues, it comes out to be a 24-bar blues. It would be like one of these, just double the length on each chord progression. That's why I have repeat signs. This is done twice, this is done twice, this is done twice, then the 6 down to 5, and then that's done twice. So my chord progression on My Sun Is Gone, also if you have my book, it's in my book, this chord progression goes like this. It's a 12-bar blues in A minor in 3/4 time, and it goes like this: A minor 7 to E7 sharp 9, 4 times. Then D minor 7 to A7 sharp 9, 2 times, and back to A minor 7 to E7, 2 times. F major 7, 2 measures, E7, 2 measures, back to A minor 7, E7, twice. So it's a 24-bar blues in A minor, and I did it in 3/4 time, but essentially it's the same as these other classics. So, like I said, that's a song of my own, and I'll leave you with that. I'll do a little playing on it. After the intro of 8 bars, it is what you see in front of you written. So it's A minor 7 to E7. This is the intro. So now the song would start right here. A minor 7 to E7. 4 times. Then I go D minor 7 to A7 2 times, and back to A minor 7 to E7. Then I go F major 7, 2 measures, to E7, and then back to A minor 7 to E7. And that has a melody. Great chord progression to jam on. So this is Bob Piorun. This has been a lesson on the minor blues, and I'll do another installment or 2 on some further ideas about the blues progressions, especially used in jazz and so on. So thank you very much, and hope to see you again.